Paramount Plus has got a new medical drama, but it's far more than that, called SkyMed. It's going to be coming out on July the 10th. And this is a guy we've had on the show before. You might remember him from The Order. Hamish himself. That's right. It's Thomas Elms. Thomas, what's up, man?
Hey, good to see you again, James. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Hey, man, it's good to have you back. So SkyMed, like I said, very different than some of the other shows and movies that you've been a part of in your career, actually. So what was it like, and what was it that actually drew you to this project?
Um, that's a cool question. I think it came at a time for me where I really felt like I'd made a massive leap in terms of my acting abilities. I just felt this like massive jump. It was almost like I leveled up over the course of a few months, and it was like right at the end of the whole pandemic, the industry being shut down, and I was really looking to make a major change in sort of the way I guess the industry viewed me. A lot of the time, I think we're kind of stuck in the you get typecasted a lot based on what you look like, and that is usually where you sort of remain. Like that's sort of your ballpark in TV and film. So if you get a chance to sort of rewrite the script, I figured why not? And I, was wanting to do something a bit more actiony and a bit more like, you have your fantasy projects that you want to work on, but I was also doing a lot of physical training at the time. I picked up martial arts again. That was a huge, force of good in my life. And I think it really contributed to why I was feeling like I just sort of leveled up in terms of my acting over in the span of a few short months. And then it was like I was getting some good auditions in, for cool projects, action stuff. It was almost like, all the meditation and, manifestation stuff was starting to work. Stuff was starting to show up in terms of the job opportunities. And then SkyMed came along. I remember it was like one of the easier auditions I've ever done, which was incredible. They had some really cool scenes that obviously aren't released yet, but I'm really looking forward to you seeing those, because for me, getting to do that audition and then actually getting to be a part of the project, it's always cool when you remember the scenes that you first applied for the job with, and then you're actually there doing it. Yeah, it just seemed like a cool adventure show. It seemed like a departure from the characters I'd played previously on television. And also, I mean, man, like I hadn't had a job in the acting industry for going on a year. I think I was starting to seriously reconsider my life decisions. And maybe business school was a smarter idea, but it really, it came at a time where I was making a major shift in my life towards the positive. And I feel like it was the right time to book a show like that. Yeah.
And boy, did that work out for you. We'll get into that a little bit more in just a second here too. But Nowak's was actually one of the pilots on the show, so I'm sure you had some training to do, prepare for the role and things like that. So what was it
Yeah.
like going through some of the flight training and learning some of the inner workings like that?
It was very cool, man. Like I'm a gamer, so for me, I've always wanted to sit in an X-wing or something like that, and this was the closest I've gotten to actually feeling that. Like they created the interior of it was maybe about 15% larger to accommodate camera equipment and a crew and stuff like that. But they created, a scale replica of, one of these twin propeller planes. And man, just getting to sit in that thing, it's hot, it's cramped. You've got this seat belt in, there's nowhere to really go, but there's all these incredible stuff. So my gamer instincts kicked in. I'm like, all right, where's my missiles? Come on, like that's got to be the booster
missiles.
jets there.
That would certainly make clearing the runway a little easier.
Yeah, exactly, man. They were telling me in the first couple of days of filming, like, Tom, you gotta turn down the amount of stuff you're doing in the plane, man. There's just not. And the reality is, like, when you're mid flight, there's not that much to do control wise. You sort of monitor things. You have a chat, you have a coffee, you go over the flights, you look at the map. Other than that, you're kind of just chilling, but it's takeoff and landing that's the most involved. And so when we got to do some of the action sequences involving the plane, like it was just, for me, it kind of tickled that inner geek that, always wanted to do a sci-fi or a fantasy. And it was incredible. So there's some really amazing scenes that Mercedes and I shot. Because obviously, like, it's an adventure show, stuff's got to go wrong. Stuff out of the ordinary's got to happen. And they get into some extreme circumstances, like stuff that would only happen in like the most extreme, wildest cases of remote medical practice and piloting. So Yeah, it was a thrill, man. It was a thrill all the way through.
I love how you threw X-wing in there, like you don't know that there's a Rogue Squadron movie coming up that could just be itching for a pilot.
Oh,
Here it
I mean,
comes.
maybe it is. You
I'm
never
just
know.
saying. I'm just saying. Hey,
Maybe I'm manifesting it right now,
you
James.
don't
Maybe
have
we're
to throw
both.
it out there because I will.
I appreciate that, man.
All right, Thomas. When we meet Nowak in the first episode, though, we don't want to spoil anything, of course. But he seems a bit on the serious side, and we see the
Yeah.
episode progress. We get to learn a little bit more about him. So, how would you actually describe him, and how much we're going to learn about him in upcoming episodes?
Um, well, he definitely becomes more involved as the journey progresses. All the characters sort of have their various, arcs where, they're more involved in the show. There's a lot of main characters in this series. It's what I love about it. He's, obviously, I like to think of Novak as kind of the sort of the lone wolf kind of guy. He doesn't really want to sit down at the campfire with the rest of the gang and saying kumbaya, but he's perfectly happy to kind of prowl, around and just, he likes. I think he fancies himself a bit of a guardian, and I think he wants to become a leader. He's obviously not the most gifted when it comes to interacting with people, but I think we'll get to see that armor melt a little bit as the season progresses. So that's what I'm excited for everyone to kind of discover when it comes to my piece of the pie. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Yeah, well, your characters don't just work together, though. They live together, too, which makes things very, very interesting. So when you have a group dynamic like that, everyone's got, like, their role, right? Like, you were kind of touching on that in a minute. So what's Novak's role, you think, in this group?
And that's actually touching on something you asked earlier. It's one of the reasons I was first drawn to the idea of a project like this, because it kind of felt like these guys are all on deployment. You're living on this frat house / army barracks up in the middle of nowhere, flying, graveyard flights and working at a bar just to make ends meet. And it's just sort of a bit savage, it's a bit, it's not quite as civilized, but there was something about that idea of, just the team, the unity of the team. And, obviously there are people that don't get along with each other. And, Novak in general doesn't really play well with others. I think he's perfectly happy to just kind of take the lead on things and not have to have his authority questioned. But of course, that's not the way it goes. He's not as competent and as he likes to believe. And that part of his journey, I think, is learning to sort of, live with other people, live with himself. These guys are all on some journeys, and they're taking big risks in their lives. They've got big dreams that they're trying to accomplish, and it requires some sacrifice. And I think it's part of the reason why people are going to love these characters. It's, there's a little piece of everyone, in this show. And they've given so much love to the stories and the people that, in addition to it being an action show and a medical drama, there's the blood and the guts and the kissing and all the good stuff. But it is also about like the real beating heart in all of these people. And so that was really what drew me, I think, to this project, in addition to it being a cool show about planes and,
Yeah, that doesn't hurt. That doesn't hurt.
Yeah,
That is very well put, though, for when you guys see the show, you'll totally understand what he's talking about. Now, right away in the first episode, Thomas, we get to see how much the elements play a role in the job of SkyMed pilots and nurses. Being able to be in that setting, though, while shooting, that had to really kind of raise the stakes for you a little bit. So did you kind of feel it when you were in those moments, even when you were shooting, just how difficult this job really is, and maybe it's easier to portray that when you're actually in it?
Yeah, I mean, it was tough enough just being out in those conditions with all the luxury that being on a film set, affords you. Like we had a tent to go back to, and there was a heater plugged in. So even if you're just, caked with ice and, it was cold, like we were filming in some seriously cold weather. And just imagining that that's the conditions that these guys work in day by day by day. It's a tough place. It's a tough place to work, and it requires a certain amount of grit, and courage on behalf of, everyone, because if something goes wrong, likely you're kind of just out there on your own. And it's you have to keep your wits to survive. And I think that's a big part of what Novak is, in terms of, like you were mentioning, the dynamic of the group, right? I think he doesn't really know very well how to play with others, but he does know how to do his job, and his job is to make sure that everyone comes home alive And sometimes that means making a hard call, and the call might be, okay, do we go into this valley to get this person who is, whatever, got an appendicitis or something like that? At the same time, I'm risking my entire crew by going into something that's, dangerous conditions, low visibility, all these things, all these factors that he's constantly running through his mind. And really, there's only one person that can make the call on that, and it's the captain, because, someone has to take responsibility and someone has to make that call. So obviously, like, there's comforts where you work on a film set. There's always hot coffee and there's always, but yeah, I remember this one day where Natasha was filming and she was basically in a tank top, and it was like minus 25 Celsius, windy, snowing, full on. And she's trying to basically drag this like 250-pound guy who's basically, I mean, I can't, okay, I'm spoilers. I gotta stop. But I mean, she went for it. Like, she really went for it. She was so gung ho. She's like, yeah, get me out there. And man, once the adrenaline wears off, you realize like how savagely cold it gets in the prairies, in the wintertime, with the wind. And it was fun, man. It was fun. I didn't, it was cool to feel a little bit like, you want to taste it a little bit, you don't want it to be too simulated. Obviously we did have some warehouse studio days, but for a lot of the wilderness stuff you see, that's just us out there. It was great, but there were some seriously cold days, like people's lips turning blue the second they roll the cameras, because you take your coat off, 15 seconds later, just the wind hits you and your entire body just drops like temperature. So it was intense, but it was so much fun, and everyone on that show was just so lovely and so wonderful, and they gave their all, every day. Oh man, it was a ride. It was an adventure. So I hope if we capture any of that, man, on the screen, that'll be a win for me.
I think you definitely do that, at least in the first episode that I saw anyway. But I want to go back to your time on the Order for just a second, because I remember Hamish was quite the mixologist. You want to talk about staying warm? That might be a good way to do it. So, I mean, you going to bring any of those skills to Nowak on this role? Does he have another, like, secret talent that we don't know about, maybe?
Man, it's just so funny that, I mean, I don't know if I can even talk about this because it's revealing stuff, but you'll see the behavior and the, like, some of the work, some of the jobs, some of the talents I have are just so, like, eerily reminiscent of Hamish on the Order. Like, let's just say, like, all those mixing skills, all that bar work business that I had to learn, it's definitely going to serve me in this. So I'm excited. It's always fun to get to, play with the sets. They're always so incredibly detailed, and so much love and heart goes into designing these sets, the props and, the art department, creating beer labels and fake whiskey bottles. And, there's so much love and detail put into, every single room. And, not a lot of it really ever gets highlighted. So just for me to get to play with that, it makes my job easier. It makes it a little less scary when you've got a bar rag, a kitchen rag in your hand. You can do so much stuff with that. And it's kind of like, for me, I definitely feel comfortable when I've got, props and stuff to work with. So yeah, it'll be fun. Stay tuned. It's so funny. As much as I've wanted to escape the dark, broody, strong, silent type, kind of menacing, but also a bit of a softie, here I am playing Nowak, and, it's not so different.
But it's all good at the same time.
But it's all good, man. It's great. Yeah, well, absolutely.
Before I let you go, Thomas, I mean, we'd be remiss if I didn't talk about something really cool that you've got coming up as well, called The Boys in the Boat, which is based on the true story of the eventual Olympic champion rowing team of the mid-1930s. Yeah. So what was it like being a part of that story and getting to work with George Clooney as your director? Because that had to be really cool.
That was cool, man. I mean, one of the most surreal experiences ever was us filming one of the more climactic moments in the film, and it's like a boat race. Obviously it was incredible. We're giving our all. Basically, we've been training for months and months and months to be able to look like and perform like arguably what is the greatest rowing team, of their generation to walk the face of the earth. So,
no pressure. Yeah,
we were all just a tiny bit terrified, and of course, yeah, like, George Clooney's he's a mega celebrity. He's like old Hollywood, you know what I mean? It was such an incredible opportunity and such a privilege to kind of, learn from that and just, get a taste of what it's like being directed. And man, yeah, it was wild. We're filming this crazy scene where we're just going balls out on this row. And Clooney just walks out while the cameras are rolling, and he starts playing Take Me Down to Funky Town on his little Bluetooth speaker, and just kind of rocking out maybe like 3 feet away from us, walking, making his way up and down, and it was the most surreal moment of the entire experience, because we kind of we didn't know what to do. we didn't want to like let him dance on his own, right? Because the boss is there, grooving out, but we're also, filming what is, probably one of the most like physically intense parts of the whole movie. So it was surreal and it was fun. He had a great, he had such a great attitude, such a great sense of humor. It was great. The work days were easy, fun. They moved fast. We got a lot done. It was such a joy, and I can't wait for that film to come out, because I think it's going to be something really special. So thanks for mentioning that. Yeah, it's hopefully coming out. Well, it's coming out next year sometime. I'm not sure when, but yeah, that was an incredible opportunity. That was 2 months of training in England, learning how to row, and then 3 months of filming. And I think it's going to be an amazing movie. Like, it's a huge part of American sports history. Like the 1936 Olympics, you had Jesse Owens, of course, and you also had the junior varsity team from Seattle who win gold. It's no mystery. Like, the history's there, and it's already, published a lot. And there's a great biographical novel called The Boys in the Boat that the film is based on, that everyone should definitely go read. It's a really good book, and it really sort of makes you feel the essence of being in that boat. And it's really a special experience. And to be in that craft for, 5 months with 8 other guys, 8 other actors. We were all novice rowers when we came onto that project, and everyone just gave their all. There were some incredibly tough days, and I'm just so proud of what we were able to do. So if we're able to capture like the essence of rowing and the speed of it, and just it'll be a really special film. And I don't think anyone's ever captured rowing in the same way on film. I saw Top Gun recently, and that was such an incredible ride. Like, just what we can do these days with really capturing the real essence of the speed and it was like unlike anything. It was my Will Coben, who was my colleague and my castmate on the Boys in the Boat. He said it best. He said, what, like, I didn't want to see any other movie than that movie. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That movie was exactly why I want to go to the cinema. And yeah. So if we're able in any way to capture, the real speed of rowing, what it's like to be in that boat, I think it's going to be a really cool film. So thanks, man.
No, not a problem. We're going to put the oars down, though, for a second. We're going to pick the flight yoke back up, because July 10th is when we're going to be seeing SkyMed on Paramount Plus. Get 9 episodes dropping. And boy, does this guy have a really cool arc. Then the whole season. Wait till you check it out. It's Thomas Elms. Thank you so much, man, for taking the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, James. It's a pleasure as always.